Hello. I'm here to take you with me, so to speak, on a little visit to Bath in England. And there I was visiting a friend. I was going to the American Museum and Gardens. I visited Persephone Books, and I want to give you a fantastic recommendation for somewhere to have breakfast. So mainly I was on my way to Bristol to see the Film Poetry Live Festival, and one of my poems had been selected to be shown. I was pleased to see. And a friend of mine was visiting Bath at the same time, so they're quite close together. I just popped across. Bath. Gorgeous golden stone buildings from the Regency period, i.e. the King George's, and a really popular place for spa waters from even before that. There's Roman baths there. I actually saw the Roman baths, and they were just sandwiched right in between the cathedral on one side and the pump room on the other. And when I say that, people who are fans of Jane Austen will immediately think, and Regency romances, will immediately think of the pump room as a place for balls, for young single people to be met and dancing together and leading hopefully to romance, maybe marriage for some people. On the train to Bath, I actually had a conversation with the lady beside me. As I was saying, Jane Austen and Bath are linked together a lot, and it's the 150th anniversary of her birth, so there's a lot of celebrations going on. Bath is partaking of that. But actually, Jane Austen had a pretty poor time in Bath, was very unhappy because she had come from the countryside she loved. And while she was in Bath, she did not write very much for about 10 years of her life. So if you think about that, think how many novels she could have written. We could have had at least another 2. So Bath actually, in Jane Austen, is not a comfortable fit in my mind. But anyway, this lady I was speaking to turned out to be a National Trust volunteer, and she recommended going to Lacock Abbey, Lacock Abbey. And she pointed out that there William Henry Fox Talbot had taken what was supposed to be the first, is very likely to be the first photograph ever in England, and you'll probably have seen it if you're keen on photography. And it's a photograph of the windows in that house. But she was pointing out to me that his wife was also a really keen photographer, and her work has been overshadowed by his, and that it's worth visiting the house and finding out about the wife as lady photographer. And beyond that, that the founder of the house, the abbey, was founded by Ella, the 3rd Countess of Salisbury. Way back, her years are 1187 to 1261. She'd been married to the illegitimate half-brother of Richard the Lionheart, and she, for a while, was actually the local sheriff in charge of the law and so forth. So the newfound friend, whose name I don't know, recommended a particular podcast, if that interests you. And it's in a podcast called Back When. And let me get the title of it here. Ella, Sheriff of Wiltshire, a Medieval Marvel. And it was uploaded in June of this year, 2025. So I arrived in Bath Spa at night time when the town wasn't exactly bright. And the staff, one person said, asked my directions to Pulteney Bridge, which is a major tourist attraction in the town. And the person at the exit of the train said, "Oh no, we need to be in the other exit from the train station." So I trundle with my suitcase and arrived to be told, "Oh no, it's the other exit." Trundle back again. So then I started through the town, and it was really dark. It's poorly lit at night, and I must say I didn't feel tremendously safe. There was also a wave of young people coming towards me, and you didn't feel particularly that they were going to be careful walking around you. They just were coming in waves, and very strangely, it was like a lot of yuppies there. So they were all wearing stripy shirts and chinos, and it was kind of strange. Lots of, a group of guys, and then another group and another group and another group and another group. And it turned out later on, I found out from my friend that there had been a rugby match, and the people the other side were from Essex, and they wore this kind of yuppie outfit for some strange reason. But anyway, it was a rather strange way to come to Bath. And the next day it all felt a lot better in the daylight. We went to the American Museum and Gardens, which has been set up privately to represent the best of American kind of life and culture to the British. And it's on the outskirts, you have to take a taxi, but it was well worth it. And then we had to wait for the house to open at 11 a.m. Fortunately, the cafe was open, which was just delightful. And then they actually had laid on books. So they have an area, a sizable area, where you can give donations of books that you finished reading, and then people decide to buy them, and there's just an honesty box there. And the prices, I think, were something like £2 for a hardback and £1 for a paperback. They were genuinely interesting books. But I was there on a mission with my friend to see the quilts, which we'd been conspiring to see, or hoped to see for the longest time. And it was such a delight. We just kept saying, oh, we're here, we're actually together, and we're here to see the quilts. So both of us were flying home. So much as the books are fantastic, we resisted. And she immediately said to me that I should make a little video called What People Are Reading in Bath This Week. So it's not long enough for that, but here are some of the books and you can have a look. They're excellent quality books, they're in great nick, they're beautifully displayed, and that was a little unexpected addition. The cafe were also presenting an exhibition of photographs, yet another extra unexpected. They're photographs by Carinthia West, and she took them of rock and roll stars when they were young and healthy and happy and relaxed, and they are run through 2 rooms of the cafe. And one of the cafe rooms is a bit like a treehouse, so you have it's running suspended high above the ground, and they've got extremely large leafy plants outside, so you get the feeling you're in a tropical jungle all of a sudden. It's just done beautifully, really, really nice. One of the special things was a picture of Carly Simon, and the way they put it, it was Carly Simon and Twin Towers, and sure enough, when you look at the photograph, the Twin Towers are reflected in her glasses. Now, the house itself has high plants right around it and a golden gravel path. If you're somebody who would like to imagine that you're living in a Jane Austen novel or walk along a gravel path through the garden, you could do it there. Also, the house itself is set out, each room represents a particular era of time in America, and must have been tremendous expense. They brought through the furniture, doors, sometimes floors or walls from actual houses, and they have got people there, guides who are there to say when it was, where it was, and explain the link with Britain quite often. So amazing. I mean, if you love history, we were there to see the quilts. And we went up, that was at the top of the house. It's kind of dully lit, but that's natural because they're trying to preserve the colours of the fabrics. And the way they're displayed is like a big book, a spine, and then the different screens, drops, lets you see the quilt hanging, and then you move around and you can see the next one. And my friend and I were just looking through together, and we said, oh, that one looks like Kaffe Fassett. And then we looked closer on the side and he said, yes, it was made by him, and he particularly likes this place because, of course, he came from America himself to settled in England, and he has had exhibitions of his work, retrospectives there as well. So we bought the quilt book, Quilts at the American Museum and Gardens. This is beautiful, beautifully illustrated, and it's perfect because, much as we loved it, you can't really photograph textiles in the detail you like in dimly lit circumstances. Plus, of course, this then gives you the added extra explanation and the background and the history. And let me see, can I find the price? I think it's around £25, something like that. And here is Kaffe's quilt. So, yeah, delightful. So really pleased to get that, really well produced. Also, when we went to the bookshop, They had a fantastic section of creative crafts, makings, arts there. Books especially were good, but also lots and lots of games by postcards and so forth. I got a book on knitting called Alternates. But it's not just a book of knitting, it's called Imaginative Projects and Creativity Exercises by Lee Radford. And one of the ones that caught my eye was the fact that she has knitted crepe paper crowns and a silver square necklace and a screen door. I know, fabulous, so amazing. So I had a great conversation with the merchandising manager, and she was saying there's a Bend Quilt exhibition coming in January. Very, very, very exciting. Now, at the moment she said it's just finishing in Dublin, so there's a chance I might get to see it there, which would be an easier journey for me than going all the way back to Bath. And we had a discussion about writing a book to accompany the exhibition, because I have a book on Gee's Bend, which I'll give the link here, which is, I have referenced it on my videos. And she was saying that those books sadly are starting to go out of print, and it's very difficult for her to get a current book on Gee's Bend. So I was trying to say, could you not write something for this current exhibition that's coming? So we had a really interesting discussion about that. And the next day I was leaving Bath and going to the train. That seemed quite simple. I thought I would catch an exhibition that's on the cathedral. It didn't open early enough for me. I had time. So I ended up looking to get something to nibble in the morning, and then that led me on a whole excursion, and I discovered essentially the main parts of Bath and reasons for me to come back again. So what I saw was a Pulteney Bridge in daylight, rather lovely. And I noticed that there was a sign in French about not feeding the pigeons, so I don't know if the French are particularly geared that way. Also, there's a sign up, the Fashion Museum is about to be reopened fairly soon. So if you're going in the near future to Bath, that could be an option for you, which I think is very exciting. I love the signs and the street names. And sometimes the street name would be just painted on the wall corner, and it looked like it wasn't done yesterday, shall we say. It was something hundreds of years old. I love the sign for Alfred's Pre-Loved Men's Clothing, which I thought sounded like if you're a pre-loved man, you should buy your clothing here. And somebody else who saw it from my photograph said, oh, it looks like it's Alfred's pre-loved men, his old boyfriends. So there's different ways you can read a sign, isn't there? Now, I wanted breakfast at this point, and I had been waiting outside the cathedral. There was a little cafe nearby, so I went in and asked for the price of something, because they were all displayed in a little wooden block. So a little wooden block, and then there would be the little bit of paper displaying the price. And it had managed to be put up in such a way at the glass counter that you couldn't see the price. It was just obscured by the block. So I asked, and the person behind the counter said, the prices are displayed. Well, they're not, because I can't see it. The customer's always wrong. It's a new way of thinking. And then I was quoted a fairly steep price for what was essentially an exotic bun, and I decided, no, I don't think so. So I left and walked up the town, and I came to a nice supermarket, Waitrose, slightly more expensive, maybe slightly more for foodies, and I saw a lady heading quickly towards it, early in the morning, immaculate hair. And I thought, she's a woman who knows her food. So I said, excuse me, could you recommend anywhere to eat for breakfast? And almost without breaking stride, she just said, the Fine Cheese Company, immediately. And so I went up the road to where she indicated, and she was right. She was so right. So the Fine Cheese Company is a shop, and then right beside it, they've got an opening through it. There's a cafe, and it's like a French cafe. You've got the service was brilliant. You could choose from a quick breakfast menu, and you chose the items, and then you got priced accordingly. Whereas quite often, if you eat a quick breakfast, you are offered, here's what it is, and so on, but you could choose from amongst 3 or 4 or 5 things. But this menu was start as minimal as you want. Do you just want one item and what it is? And it was just lovely. The service was so accurate and instant. And the young woman taking my order, obviously is a student from the university, because she looked at me and her eyes had 6 times more intelligence than I had. And I thought, oh, you're doing a PhD in medieval literature or something. And she just looked really smart. And false, delivery of the exact food that I ordered. Lovely feeling of being in Paris. There was black and white checked lino, there was a marble top table, everything was comfortable, and I could see there was a sign just right in front of me which was giving the motto for the cafe, and I felt it was truly followed, that it wasn't just something that was given lip service by people, or a 5-word punchy comment made up by some chain of shops. It was actually her personal way of doing things, and the staff followed through. They were excellent, so good. And the shop display window was all these fabulous cakes and so forth, generously sized and looking like they were amazingly well made and covered with glass. And the door had a little old bell like you will see in the old Georgian movies, or movies about the Georgian times rather, and it was this tinkle, 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 just this very gentle, nice little sound. So, happy days, my total recommend for where to have breakfast. The one thing is that their toilet is an outdoors one, so you go out to a little courtyard and it's this little small box in the courtyard. If it was happening to be raining, you could get wet between leaving the main building, so that's the one thing. But just bliss to eat there and be served a meal. Totally recommend. And so I find myself in the part of the town where Persephone Books is. Now, Persephone Books, let me just start off by saying, carries a warning because it is seriously addictive. It is so wonderful. In fact, there are lots of references to it on YouTube here by BookTube presenters, and one of them is I'm addicted to Persephone. And I can see why. The shop is just a total delight. So I came into the shop, looked around, and I can see that they're reprinting books that are representing the domestic lives of women and women writers in the 20th century largely. The books tend to be quite standard. They have grey covers, and then inside they have end papers, which is a little bit of pattern inside. So for example, here's one I bought, and that end cover will represent a fabric or material or wallpaper pattern that was around at the time that the book is set or was written, and you get a matching little reading marker, and they're quite irresistible, to be honest. So I asked for advice. I was told Dorothy Whipple books, tremendous, easy to read, everybody likes them. I've got my first one. It will not be my last one. High Wages. I'm nearly finished, as you can see. Very easy to read, but thought-provoking because it's written so long ago when women's lives were very different. I also bought a little badge so that I could wear it in my lapel. So those of us who are in the know will go, Persephone Books. And I got a Persephone catalogue. And I filmed a little flip through because you're going to want to see what there is there. So the categories A to Z: adultery, America, architecture, biography, Bloomsbury, childhood, children, books 4, cookery books, country life, diaries, education, family, fathers, gardening books, gay and lesbian, grandmothers, history, house and garden, humour, Ireland, London, love story, men, books about, men, books by, mothers, north of England, overseas, poetry, politics, race, science fiction, Scotland, sex, shopping, short stories, single women, social comedy, suffragettes, teenagers, books 4, thrillers, translations, Victoriana, widows, women in home, working women, World War I, World War II. Now, I recommend looking at the Persephone website, but it carries even more of a safety warning because it is utterly entrancing. Someday, all websites will be made like Persephone bookshops. They have even got a playlist of Kaffe music, which is a violin and a piano instrumental with multiple different tracks for you to listen to while you're looking at the books, which gives you a feeling of the kind of era the books cover. It's immersive, very immersive. And they can supply you the books for 6 months at a time, and you can choose. They can choose for you. You can give it as a gift. They also have audiobooks. They have made the audiobooks of many of their books, including by chance the one that I bought. But since I'm nearly finished, I'll pass on by getting the audiobook as well. They have events. They have book groups if you live in or near Bath. They've got a pamphlet. They have all sorts of information about how they run, and of course there's information you can be kept up to date with what they've got. I have now discovered they actually make a little literary map of Bath, which I'm really sorry I didn't get, but if you're going to get, it's about £5, and it helps you to then look at all the bookish delights, and on the back it has information about each of the writers who at some point stayed in Bath. And yeah, I'll let you have a look at that for yourself. persephonebooks.co.uk. They have about 153 books currently they've published and counting. Each costs about £15. So if you multiply that together, it's quite a lot of money, but the quality is such that you start to think, yes, maybe if I get one a month or something. It is addictive. I tell you, it is just addictive because it's such good quality. The staff are happy to talk, really informative, and it's just a whole thing. I just don't know quite how to express it, but it is wonderful. And I hope that you've enjoyed hearing a bit about it from me, and that you maybe sometime will go to Bath yourself, or if you don't, you'll feel like you have been. So that's me for now, and I will go off and edit this, and then I will put together my little video about Bristol. So enjoy the autumnal visit. Bye for now.